Here's a problem 90% of business owners run into when they prompt AI. You get output that looks professional, it sounds smart, but it's wrong for your specific business. And worse yet, if you try fixing it by adding more context to your prompt, you can actually make it worse. I'm Rob Fernango with F1 Analytics. I teach entrepreneurs how to actually use AI without the hype and BS. And today, I'm showing you the RACES framework, a simple structure that takes you from this looks good but it's wrong to this is exactly what I need for my business. And I'm going to prove it works by testing in both Claude and ChatGPT, building the same SOP 3 different ways in each model and comparing the results. All right, here's what we're doing. I'm going to ask both Claude and ChatGPT to write an SOP, a standard operating procedure for handling returns in a small e-commerce business. 3 different prompts, 2 AI models. You'll see a weak prompt that most people use, a better prompt with more context that actually gets worse results, and then a RACES structured prompt that nails it in both models. Let me show you what most people do. All right, I'm going to ask Claude to write an SOP for handling returns in a small e-commerce business. This is something every product-based business needs, and it takes hours to create manually. So here's the prompt. Can you write me a returns SOP for my small online store? I sell custom mugs, tumblers, wall decor, and stuff like that. Just hired someone part-time to help with returns, probably a college student. They'll need to respond to customers, send shipping labels and process refunds, and keep it simple since they're new to this. This seems reasonable, right? I gave it a context about my business, told it who the employee is, and explained what they need to do. Let's see what we get. So take a look at this. I've pulled the results out into a document so it's easier to read here. It's professional looking, it's well organized, and it has sections and everything that we pretty much asked for here. Most people will copy and paste this and hand it to their new employee and think that they're done, except it's got a few problems. If we come down to sections 8 and 9, we see it's invented a $500 threshold that doesn't exist in my business for high value orders. It assumes that we have a design approval system and a mock-up process that I don't have. It mentions then later on a returns tracking spreadsheet when I actually use my e-commerce platform's return menu. And it escalates to management, but if I'm a one-person side hustle, I don't have management. So I ran the same task with a better prompt. More organized, more context, and more details about what I needed. I need help creating a standard operating procedure for processing returns. The business context is we're a small e-commerce store, Shopify or Etsy. We sell custom printed products, mugs, tumblers, wooden signs, pillows, magnets. We get about $1,500 a month in revenue, and we get 5 to 6 returns monthly, approximately $100. I'm hiring a part-time employee, likely a student, probably their first job in e-commerce, to handle returns. The SOP should cover how to respond to return requests, what to do when returns arrive, processing refunds, and follow up if customers don't send items back. Please include some email templates they can use. Keep the language professional, but easy to understand and not too corporate. Look at that, way more complex and way more context than the first prompt. So this should really be a lot better, right? Let's find out. And in some ways, it is better. The tone is more conversational and it's more practical, but we do run into an issue here. The first prompt gave me several email templates. We look over here, we'll see that we had a template for refund processing, custom items, and errors. But in the second prompt here, for the medium prompt, we didn't get any. This one gave me 0 email templates. So even though I specifically asked for them, we didn't get anything back. So I thought maybe that's just Claude. Let me try ChatGPT with the exact same prompt. And look, ChatGPT also gave me 0 email templates. It's a different AI model, but it ended up with the exact same failure. Here's what just happened. I explicitly asked for email templates in that medium prompt, and both Claude and ChatGPT ignored that request. Why? Because I said some email templates without specifying how many, what situations, what format, or what file names they should have. And without specifications, AI might deprioritize or ignore even explicit responses. And look at the different ways that they failed with that first weak prompt. Claude invented a design approval system and had wrong dollar amounts in it. ChatGPT, on the other hand, stayed very generic but gave me a corporate operations manual instead of instructions for a college student. They're different AI models and different failure modes, but they both looked professional and both failed in practice. The solution isn't more context, it's more structure. That's what the RACES framework gives you. Now, RACES is a framework that tells AI exactly what you need, how you need it, and what constraints to follow. And I'm going to prove it works across both major AI models. So let me show you how. RACES is an acronym, 5 elements that go into every high-quality AI prompt. R is for role, A is for action, C is for context, E is for end result, and S is for specifications. So let me build this prompt piece by piece so you can see how each element improves the output. First, R is for role. Who should the AI act as, and what expertise do you need? You are an experienced operations consultant who specializes in creating clear, actionable, standard operating procedures for small businesses. You have expertise in e-commerce operations and a talent for writing procedures that are professional yet accessible to every entry-level employee. This sets the expertise level and the tone. We're not just asking write an SOP, we're asking someone with specific skills to write it in a specific way. Next, A is for action. What do you actually want done with this prompt? Create a comprehensive standard operating procedure, SOP, for processing customer returns in an e-commerce business. This SOP will be used by a newly hired customer fulfillment representative who will handle the entire returns process from initial request through final resolution. Notice we're specific about who will use this and what they will do with it. That's important context that affects how the AI writes. Now C, context. Now this is where most people stop. They give context and they think they're done. But context alone isn't enough. We just proved that with the medium prompt. So now we're going to give the AI some business details. We're a small e-commerce business and an Etsy Shopify store selling custom printed ceramic coffee mugs, thermal tumblers, cry-cut wooden wall decor signs, printed pillows, and vinyl magnets. Our monthly revenue is about $1,500. The current stage, we're a side hustle run by a single owner, now hiring first-time employee. Our return volume is approximately $100 a month, 5 to 6 orders. For our employee profile, we note that it's a customer fulfillment representative, likely a high school student or college student seeking extra income. It's a minimum wage position, and they're likely to not have any prior experience in this type of business. They'll handle returns along with other fulfillment tasks. Then we've got our return policy, and we're going to attach the return policy as a document. So we tell the AI to please reference this for eligibility rules, timeframes, and refund guidelines. Then we also have a return process overview, and we state that the SOP has to cover these 3 main phases: responding to return requests, acknowledge them in 24 hours, determine their eligibility and escalation needs, gather return reasons for tracking, send appropriate shipping labels, handle replacement requests, etc. We also need to have receiving and processing of returns. So verify the correct item, inspect the condition, and so on. Then follow up on unreturned items. So if somebody requests a return and they don't actually send it back, then we follow up at 2 weeks if we haven't received anything, and have a second follow up at 1 month. And then we close it out after 2 months if we never receive anything back. And then we have critical decision points. When do we escalate it to the owner? When can the employee operate this process independently and not have to consult with the owner? When do custom items get disposed of after they've been returned? And how do we restock them? Then for customer communications, all customer communication is via email through an e-commerce platform that has generic returns menu for processing. We're not going to specify an exact Shopify or Etsy path in here. We're just going to say go through the returns menu. And the employee needs to use the pre-written email templates. Our time expectations is they're going to respond to the request in 24 hours, process received returns within 48 hours, and then the overall return completion would be 5 to 7 business days, with, again, a follow-up schedule on unreturned items. So I'll go ahead and add in our return request document here, just to make sure that we have that included. And this context now prevents AI from making up dollar amounts like that $500 threshold Claude invented in the first test. Now here's where races really shines. E, the end result. I used to call this expectations, but changed it to end result because it's just clearer when I explain it that way. So what should the final output actually look like? That's what we're talking about here. Now in the end result, we give it a document structure. We say that there are 5 sections here: an opening section, a process overview, detailed step-by-step instructions, and then we have our email templates, complete templates with specific file names. We have a quick reference checklist to wrap everything up, a 1-page checklist the employee can follow for each return. It should be around 3 or 4 pages. And then we say that the tone and style should be instructional and direct, but warm, accessible to a high school or college student, with no corporate jargon or overly formal language. Think helpful manager training a new employee, not a legal compliance document. For the formatting, we want to have clear section headers, numbered steps and substeps, and then decision points highlighted or bolded. For example, having a decision flow like if yes, then escalate to the owner. And then we have checkboxes in the quick reference checklist and email templates with clearly labeled file names. You see the difference? I'm not just asking for an SOP. I'm defining exactly what sections it should have, how long it should be, and what tone to use. This is why the medium prompt failed. I said include some email templates, but didn't specify the structure, format, or file names. Finally, S is for specifications. These are the constraints, the must-haves, the if you don't include this, it's wrong elements. And here, we must include exactly, it says 6 email templates, but there's actually 7 that are listed there with these file names. And each email template must include a subject line, a complete body text, not just descriptions, appropriate tone for the situation, and if applicable, include bracketed guidance for when to include optional text. For example, if the customer didn't specify a reason for the return. Clearly mark all escalation points throughout the document where employees must contact the owner before proceeding. Include specific timeline numbers, 24 hours, 48 hours, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 5 to 7 business days. And add questions or unusual situations section at the end, listing common scenarios to escalate. Use decision tree logic embedded in the step-by-step instructions. If this, do that. If no, do this. Do not use overly corporate or legal language and make the SOP longer than necessary. Include information about how to hire or train the employee. Do not specify exact Shopify or Etsy menu navigation paths. Keep it generic. We're just talking about a returns menu. Do not make up additional policies not mentioned in the attached return policy document. And then we have some important notes here that the email template should sound natural and customer friendly. The employee reading this has no business experience, so be explicit about every step and include the reasoning behind certain decisions where it helps. For example, this helps us track patterns and improve our responses to customers. Remember that this is a side hustle, not a corporate enterprise, and the tone should reflect that. So again, these specifications prevent the AI from making stuff up. We don't have any invented dollar thresholds, no assumed tools or processes, just what my business actually needs. And so here now we have the complete races prompt, all 5 elements working together. So let's go ahead and submit it and see what we get. If you're finding this walkthrough and comparison helpful, hit that like button so YouTube shows this content to more business owners like you. And if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button. I post new videos weekly focusing on using AI, analytics, and automation to grow small businesses. Okay, let's look at this output from Claude. We'll start off here and we see that we have a clear purpose and scope and who this is for and when to use it. In the process overview, we've noted the 24-hour and 48-hour timeframes as well as the 2-week, 1-month, and 2-month timeframes for following up on unreturned items. We've got a very clear process here that's all phased out, responding to return requests, explaining what's supposed to happen and what the employee is supposed to do here. And we've got very clear logic workflows. So check if you need to escalate to the owner. If yes, stop here and forward the request. And that happens when the return value is over $50 or if a item is customized or personalized, and then if no, continue with the steps below. It also tells us when to use which email template. So if an item is defective or damaged, use this email template. If a customer changed their mind for or another reason, then use the return acknowledgement standard email template and send the appropriate email. We've got a process for receiving and processing returns. So inspecting the condition of the item, marking the restock decision, processing the refund against the e-commerce platform, and then sending that refund processed email to confirm with the customer. In phase 3, we follow up on any unreturned items. So if a customer requests a return, but they don't send anything back, then there's the follow-up process. Again, this is the 2 weeks, 1 month, and then 2-month email follow-ups. Then we have the email templates. So in the RACES framework, Claude provided email templates we have 7 that we requested. And we can see here that we actually have 7 emails that are listed here. I won't go through every single one of them individually, but for example, the last one here, when they specify to close a return, it says, this is a return request closed. Hello, customer first name. We're writing to let you know that we've closed your return request for, and then the product name, since we haven't received the item within our 60-day return window. No refund will be issued at this time. If you have any questions or if there were extenuating circumstances, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to discuss. Thank you for your understanding. And so it's very professional, it's very courteous, it's very friendly, but it explains what is happening and why everything is being closed. We get the quick reference checklist that we asked for. And so when a return request comes in, there is a checklist there with 6 steps. When an item arrives back, so when they receive something and they have to check it back in, there's 6 steps there. And then if an item was not returned, what's the process that needs to be followed? Finally, we have questions and unusual situations like we asked for, specifically to always escalate an issue to the owner if, again, the return value is over $50, an item is customized or personalized, the customer is asking for an exception to the policy, or the wrong item was returned, or things like the return was requested after 30 days, which was the limit in our return request policy, or the customer is upset or making threats or claims that they never received the item, or if you're just not sure about anything, contact the owner. And then it's encouraging here. It says it's always better to ask than to guess. The owner's here to help you succeed. So this is really written to the employee in a way to help them and provides a place to add the contact information for the owner. This tone is warm but professional. You've got this motivation but still instructional sort of feel. And the email templates even have bracketed guidance built in. So like if a customer didn't specify the reason, include this sentence. And here's not what's in here. We don't have any invented processes. We don't have any made up tools or no wrong dollar amounts because I was precise in my specifications. Now let me show you what happened when I ran the exact same RACES prompt in ChatGPT. So what you'll see here in the ChatGPT output is that we have a very similar style document with all the pieces that we're supposed to have. We've got a purpose, scope, and what done looks like here for the employee. We have key rules that have to be followed. And then we have a process overview that includes all 3 phases that were required: responding to return requests, receiving and processing returns within 48 hours of the delivery, and then following up on unreturned items. And then we have detailed step-by-step instructions that talk about responding to the return requests, using the customer's email, opening and logging a request, creating a simple return log entry. It did still talk about the tracker spreadsheet notes that need to be included here, but it does then get into check the escalation triggers. So is the return value over $50? Is the item customized or personalized? And then if neither of these applies, you could proceed independently and still follow the return policy. Then it says, how do we escalate this? Send the owner a quick message if any of these things are true. Then we talk about the eligibility from the return policy, determining which outcomes fit. And if the policy interpretation feels unclear, escalate it to the owner. There's a section on gathering missing details from the customer, the common information that's needed, and then sending the correct acknowledgement email depending on what the decision point is. If it's a defective item, if it was damaged, if it was the wrong item, if there's some other reason why they're returning it. And then include what we're going to do next and what they need to do, as well as the timeline expectations. Then we have providing the return shipping labels, handling replacement requests, setting up reminders for the follow-up within 2 weeks, 1 month, and 2 months. And then in phase 2, we talk about receiving and processing the returns, confirming the delivery and the retrieving the package, verifying the return matches the order, confirming that it's the correct item, inspecting the condition for that item, taking photos for documentation if it's necessary, then restocking or disposing of the item, including here if it's a customized or personalized item and whether or not it needs to be escalated to the owner. Then we get to the process for refund in the platform, in the e-commerce platform. And are you going to perform the process yourself, or does it need to be escalated to the owner again? And then we get to recording in a return log. Again, we haven't really talked about a return log, but we do have to log it in the e-commerce platform. So there's going to be something along those lines, and sending the email to the customer saying that the refund has been processed. Then we have follow-ups on unreturned items, as we're supposed to have. And then we have a number of email templates listed here. So we have, again, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all 7 emails. And again, this is from ChatGPT. We see on the last email here, this is the return closed email. The subject line is return request closed for order, and it gives the order number. It says, hi, customer first name. I'm following up to let you know we're closing out the return request for order, whatever the order number is, since we haven't received the item back after multiple check-ins over the past 2 months. If you believe this was shipped and may be delayed, reply with any tracking details and we'll take another look. Thank you. And then your customer fulfillment representative. So it's a slightly different email, but it still does a reasonably good job. In section 5, we have the quick reference checklist that we're supposed to have. And then once we get beyond the checklist, we have the questions or unusual situations, very similar to what we received from Claude when we were putting this together. Now, ChatGPT's style was a little bit more procedural than Claude's. It had a little bit more of a bullet point feel and had these, decision point callouts. Claude's version was a little bit more conversational, a little bit warmer, but it still did the job. And so here's what really matters most. Both versions are accurate to my actual business. Both meet all of the specifications that I really cared about that I listed. And both would work on day 1. So let me show you the full progression across both models now. In the weak prompt, Claude made up a $500 threshold for escalating something to the owner on a return request, which should have been $50. It invented design approval systems that didn't exist, and it only gave me 3 basic email templates when there should have been more. The weak prompt in ChatGPT provided a very generic response, no real specifics, no email templates, and it had a very corporate operations manual feel. Both looked professional, but they were wrong for the business. With the medium prompt, for Claude, we had more context, but 0 templates, no email templates, even though they were explicitly requested. It made up a tool saying that we were using ShipStation, which we weren't, and then it had the wrong voice written as the owner and not really for the employee. The medium prompt with ChatGPT also had 0 email templates, despite explicit requests to include them. It had a better structure, but it was still generic and it was missing key specifications. Both ignored the explicit request for email templates because some email templates was too vague. Finally, with the races prompt structure, Claude provided all 7 email templates with the file names that were requested. It nailed the $50 threshold for when to escalate something to the owner, and all the specifications that we gave it otherwise were met. And it had a very warm and conversational tone. The racist prompt for ChatGPT also got all 7 of these email templates compiled with the file names that we asked for, and it had the $50 threshold identified for escalating things to the owner as well. All of the specifications were met, and it had a little bit more of a systematic or procedural tone. So different styles, but the same accuracy, and both were business ready. So what did we learn? 1. Context alone isn't enough. The medium prompt had more context than the weak prompt, but it got worse results in some ways. 2. AI makes educated guesses when you're vague. Those guesses might look professional, but be completely wrong for your business. And different AI models guess differently. Claude made stuff up, whereas ChatGPT opted to stay generic and not include as much information. 3. Even explicit requests get ignored if they're vague. I said include some email templates in the medium prompt. Both Claude and ChatGPT gave me 0 templates. Why? Because I didn't specify how many, what format, what file names, or what situations to use them in. 4th, specificity beats volume. The races prompt wasn't longer because it had more fluff. It was longer because it was specific about every detail that mattered. And 5th, races works across AI models. Both Claude and ChatGPT delivered accurate business-specific outputs when I used the framework. Their styles differed, but both met every specification. The weak prompts gave me something that looked good but would cause problems on day 1. Wrong thresholds, invented processes, generic best practices. The medium prompts got confused and dropped critical elements even when explicitly requested. The races prompt gave me exactly what my business needs in both models. Because I didn't hope AI would figure it out, I told it what I needed using all 5 elements. Role, who should write this, action, what needs to be done, context, the business-specific details, the end result, what the output should look like, and specifications, non-negotiable requirements. That's races. That's how you go from this looks okay to this is exactly right. And it works whether you're using Claude, ChatGPT, or any other AI tool. Now here's the thing. Races will dramatically improve your AI results, but there are 15 other common prompting mistakes that kill the quality of what you get back from AI. Things like not establishing a human-in-the-loop process, asking for too much at once, or forgetting to tell AI what not to do. I created the AI Clarity Guide to help you avoid these mistakes. It's a free download that walks through all 15 problems and how to fix them. The link is in the description and it's pinned in the comments below. So grab yourself a copy because Races is powerful, but combining it with these other fixes, that's when you start getting AI outputs that really help your business grow. I'm Rob Fernengo with F1 Analytics. Your success is my mission. Now go get some AI results you can actually use.